3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon.
Tonight, the reality of steroid use in Ireland. We reveal how they can be bought from online sites, personal trainers, and even from supplement shops. We examine why 1 in 5 young people say they would consider taking steroids.
I just turned 17. I was skinny fat. I went from 75 kilos to 93. It's a dangerous kind of generation we're in now.
And we look at the tragic consequences for some steroid users.
If he had heard this story about himself, he would have never took steroids ever.
Anabolic steroids have been around since the 1930s and were headline news from the 1970s and 80s onwards, when a series of high-profile athletes were caught doping.
It's Ben Johnson! Ben Johnson does it again! Unbelievable!
Anabolic steroids are synthetic versions of the male hormone testosterone, and are used to promote muscle growth. You can get them as a tablet, capsule, or as a liquid to inject. And while they were once associated with numerous doping scandals in sport, such as athletics, swimming, and cycling, steroids have now entered the mainstream.
I will be taking an Anavar cycle. This is my 3rd time trying Anavar.
And are being used by young men and women to make them look good.
These are not products dispensed in your pharmacy. The quality of them is simply unknown. We have found cases where people are filling these products and labeling themselves in their own houses, and it's of huge concern. You don't know what you're getting or what you're putting into your body.
One of the driving forces behind this new phenomenon is social media.
Once you start posting on Instagram, then you want to post more, but you want to get bigger, you want to get more likes and all that. I think that's where a lot of young fellas now are kind of getting driven towards using as well, and kind of putting pressure then on other people to basically use.
I'm a personal trainer. I've used steroids before. It's in pretty much every gym I know. You will see a fairly large number of people that are on steroids or have used steroids. They're just looking for that like Instagram post or self-vanity that they can, you know, parade around.
Lucky enough, I knew what I was doing going into it. I did a lot of research before that, but a lot of young fellas don't. They're going out with an Instagram account, and it's just, they're editing photos and they're filtering photos and they're putting them up, and they're putting young people under pressure, and they're giving people unreal expectations. It's kind of it's a dangerous kind of generation we're in now.
It's massive now, yeah, it's massive. I'm around the fitness industry a long, long time. You get no bit of shape of someone as well. Like, you know, it's not natural. It's just not natural looking.
Many individuals look at this like dyeing their hair or putting in shoulder pads in their jackets. And like much of vanity, you know, all that glitters is not gold. What they look like comes at a significant cost.
But are steroid users really aware of what they're getting from underground suppliers? In this program, we investigate the illegal trade in these drugs and why growing numbers of people are prepared to risk causing serious damage to their health by taking steroids in pursuit of the perfect body image. Much of the illegal trade in steroids has traditionally taken place online. However, this was disrupted to some extent last year, following an investigation into 38 websites by the Health Products Regulatory Authority, or HPRA. 8 social media pages were taken offline, and 2 suspected suppliers were arrested. So, to what extent are steroids still available on Irish websites? After searching across a number of online sites, we found this ad, posted by David O77 in County Tipperary. The site routinely scrutinises posts for products like steroids. However, this ad appeared to be for a supplement, but when we clicked on the picture, it became clear what was really for sale, a variety of steroids. We set up a fictitious online identity and made contact with David O77, and a meeting was arranged here, outside Limerick. This is David O'Mara from County Tipperary. Can I have a look?
Yeah, of course. You must say.
Not enough. Okay. All right. And can you give us any advice about?
Can you get needles and pumps or anything like that? Or that but you'll need testosterone with that because that would shut your testosterone levels down.
David O'Mara stressed that I would need to research the impact of steroids and undergo a post-cycle therapy, or PCT. A post-cycle therapy means users have to take even more drugs in order to counteract the side effects of taking steroids in the first place. And if I didn't follow this PCT course, I would risk losing my ability to naturally produce testosterone. However, David O'Mara did not have a PCT available for sale. And these are UGL?
Yeah.
Okay. This meant his product was produced in an underground lab, or UGL. There's no date?
There's a date on the inside.
A further question then arose as to the quality of these steroids. Expiry 07/2/2018. Yeah?
But that's just an estimate, because they're usually an estimated date.
Right. These steroids were past their sell-by date.
The hard thing is to realise or to see this is how it actually happens. This is not a drug produced in a pharmacy with the usual regulations around it. With this, the drug is out of date. It's where it's come from is quite unsure. So you're basically taking bootleg medication with all the associated problems and undoubted risks to your health.
David O'Mara claimed he doesn't usually sell steroids, although his ad included quite a wide range of products, including testosterone, Deca, Anavar, Turinabol, Masteron, and Trenbolone. In addition, we were able to make a further purchase of Anavar from him 4 weeks later. In a statement, David O'Mara told us he was just getting rid of his personal supply of steroids. He regretted his actions. However, the next seller we came across was more businesslike. The man, who identified himself as Use, appeared to be doing a brisk trade, and he told us, "I'm preparing orders for the week." There was a screening process for potential buyers, and we were asked to provide our Facebook identity. We sent him our fictitious online profile, and a meeting was arranged. But the person who showed up was this man, who claimed to be an associate of Use. This is 30-year-old Gilles Burnell from Huntstan in Dublin.
There you go. So 2 testosterone, 2 alcohols, 1 clomid and 1 back to tamoxifen, yeah?
Burnell then handed over the products, enough for 2 6-week courses of steroids.
I take one of them a day, yeah?
There we go.
You want to just count it?
Yeah, perfect, yeah. I'll put that for you. No, it's thanks, man.
Okay, that's cool. Then I will see.
Yeah, you know, they all feel like, you know, like they were all brand new. I just opened the boxes to be sure that, you know, the right quantity was in there, you know.
But he could not offer any advice about the risks or dangers and referred me instead to his associate.
You need to check with him.
Okay.
He's the medicine guy.
All right, okay. All right.
We asked Burnell about his own role in the operation.
Oh, okay. You're just the middleman, is it?
Yeah, just the middleman, yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll be the one delivering hand-to-hand. Because the way he said he prefer when somebody gives hand-to-hand because people are kind of confused nowadays.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. All I do is I take the money, put it in my bank account, I'll send it to him.
Burnell and his associate were still open for more business down the line.
I have a pal who might be interested.
Yeah.
How soon would he be able to get some of this?
You could send me some soon enough, I would say. Soon enough.
Okay.
We'll definitely have some more.
We had these steroids tested at a lab in Dublin.
Our analysis did show testosterone enanthate in there, which is what's supposed to be there as its active ingredient.
I mean, it's ironic that people are taking these products in pursuit of looking healthy when the net result is often quite the opposite.
Well, I presume that they look healthy for a period of time. Eventually, people can get strokes or they can get heart attacks. They're taking their life in their hands by taking these synthetic anabolic steroids, and particularly if they're getting them from an unknown source.
Want to decant?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll put it in. No worries. Thanks, man.
In a statement, Gilles Aspernell said he regretted his actions. He accepted that he handed over the product, but said he did not know what it was at the time. Some of the health risks associated with steroids are well documented. So why are more and more people taking them?
I'm 19 and I'm taking steroids. I just started doing it because I was insecure. I hated my body, just hated everything about me. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, so I had to do something about it. If I was going to the barbers, I wouldn't be able to look at myself getting a haircut. Just too insecure, like. So I said I'll do my first steroid cycle. I just turned 17. I was lifting in the gym, but I was no means genetically gifted. Literally no muscle definition or anything like that. It was just, I was skinny fat is what I call it. And I went from 75 kilos to about 93. 2 years later, that's in the transformation photo. I just don't care what anyone thinks anymore. It's just, I'm not even about aesthetics anymore. It's all more about strength for me now, so.
When you start to use steroids, this is give you power, everything. After a couple of days, you just, boom, becoming big. You feel strong, you feel nobody push you, you know, you feel like animal, and you start to no stop it, you just start to eat more and take it more steroids, and you bigger.
It got to a stage that I got so big that I couldn't sleep on my back because my chest muscles were that heavy. They were like, it was like they were weighing down on my chest. They were down on my lungs, that I could barely breathe, that I had to sleep on my side. But like, at the end of the day, like, it's a small price to pay to have a big chest, you know?
But steroid users will inevitably find themselves in a vicious circle.
After that 3 months or 4 months, you need more. And when you stop it, everything gone. Not quickly, but like 2 months and everything gone. And you feel like SpongeBob. You think, why I need to feel like SpongeBob, and start to take it again.
These are not the only side effects associated with steroid use.
Last time I took steroids was about 4 years ago. If you have a predisposition already to things like depression or anxiety or stress, you know, it definitely can make it worse.
When you start taking steroids before competition, your brain is start working slowly. And when you're getting steroids on the top of this, yeah, you feel somebody tell you something wrong, you can like kill somebody, you know?
From my own experience, you could walk into a gym, you could walk down the street, you could pass someone could just annoy you just a little bit, and what you would feel is not good. When you're that big and that powerful and that strong, you literally feel like you could just come over and crush someone if you wanted, and you feel like you could just go and go and go and not, you know, you do feel that roid rage.
This idea of roid rage, where these anabolic agents upregulate a part of your brain called the frontal lobe, and this upregulation of a chemical called vasopressin persists even after you finish taking these drugs. And these young men, in many cases, or young women occasionally, become hyper-aggressive. Taking these agents clearly don't make you healthy. They do exactly the opposite. And the science that backs this up is very significant.
A couple of days, you just, boom, becoming big.
These agents are dangerous, so while they trivialize the small side effects, he can't sleep on his back, or, you know, no gain, no pain, but by taking these agents, the damage they do themselves ensures that they don't live a normal, long and happy life.
I had an interest in bodybuilding, I've always had, and I've never used steroids, and it's very important for people to know that I'm anti-steroids. Being a doctor, I've seen firsthand people using steroids. Some of the worst consequences of steroid use that I see, people come into me with abnormal liver function, abnormal kidney function, low mood, erectile dysfunction, loss of libido, and even people have come into me suicidal after coming off a steroid cycle.
Mark and Sarita Egan were childhood sweethearts.
I was with my husband since I'm 15, so we were together since we were only teenagers. He's such a good dad. He's a really positive person. Never in his life suffered with depression. And he was a great husband, and he was my best friend.
Mark was introduced to steroids 2 months before his wedding.
He just said, I might give these a go and see, can I look well or build up for our wedding and our honeymoon.
Thank you, Sarita.
Our wedding day was July 2014. It was the perfect day. Like, everything went great.
This was the drug Mark began to use on a regular basis over 6-week cycles.
He built up really big, and then you could see like the veins and stuff. Once you start them, you can't stop because you get so used to taking them, get so used to how they make you feel, get so used to the energy that they give you. You're starting to trim up and your confidence grows. His body changed a lot from them. So I can see where young men these days would probably want to take them because the difference it can do to their body. But they don't know the difference, it's down to their mind. There was nothing not normal about our life, but behind it all, the steroids were slowly making him into a different person, really. Just changing his way of thinking and changing his mood. And he had a few psychotic episodes in the house where he thought there was someone coming to get us. He thought he heard voices in his head saying that they were going to capture me and the kids. And he wanted to protect us, and he was running around frantic, panicking, shaking. He didn't look like the same person. He didn't look like the person that I've been with for 20 years.
On June 2nd last year, Mark Egan took his own life.
They changed him, and I knew him long enough to realise that. I knew him long enough to know what he was like before we took steroids, and then to see the effect that the steroids had on him.
That's as bad as it gets, but what's the end point of using these agents? That's the end point. People who engage in anabolic steroid abuse or any performance-enhancing abuse have these psychological conditions. Now, this is clearly at the extreme end of the spectrum. And the paranoia is a huge element of anabolic steroid abuse. And all the learned journals and articles all make reference to unusual ideation and paranoia. But that's all very well when you're reading it simply in a textbook. But here's a family that have a very clear and exact description of it. 4 children with no father, a broken-hearted wife.
In part 2, we go undercover to investigate the dealers.
Testosterone makes like 2 more son. Bro. I'm just throwing that in there for you, buddy, just so everything's in there, buddy, yeah. I try and keep it quiet, you know.
You want to have the comfortable speed. I can't tell you where to go or what to do.
All right. Yeah. I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you as well. I'm going to do your free day plan.
Later, we'll be going undercover to investigate the illegal trade in anabolic steroids.
Because look, at the end of the day, you don't want too many people knowing our business, you know?
But first, an insight from a personal trainer who was once Ireland's strongest man.
Strength was always easy for me, you know, as in I was always naturally strong, and I've competed in top level sports. I competed in a sport called strongman. Strongman, they could be pulling cars pulling trucks, lifting cars, lifting rocks, you know, pressing things over your head, running up and down with heavy sandbags. It's really, like, that's the kind of general, it's feats of strength, you know, for reps or for distance or time. I competed in Ireland's novice strongman in 2007, and I came second, and I was natural. I was very, very strong. I was very good at what I did. But being around that scene of strongman, you know, and I was a young lad at the time, the general advice was you have to take these if you want to compete at the top level.
What a way it would be for James Finlay to finish this competition.
Well, I competed in that in 2008, and I was probably, you know, I wasn't taking very little steroids at the time in 2008. But it just got, it led on from that, 2009, 2010, 2011. But I did take steroids at the time. And I suppose I wanted to compete at the top level at the time. You know, suddenly I was thrust, 2008, I was thrust onto television.
The fourth stone, but Finlay.
My first ever UK strongest man. I was this normal fella from Kilkenny. Suddenly I was on television, and like people were amazed that James Finlay is all over television. At the time you're winning, you do anything to win, you know, and I was winning, and I was the best. And I'd go out and I'd lift anything.
So why don't you have a go and see? Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen?
To do that, like, you know, the time I'd done the Late Show, that was easy for me. It looked very good, you know, and it looked great, but lifting the car was easy.
It's just won a prize for everyone in the audience.
You know, and that buzz, that 10-second buzz or that 20-second buzz or that people patting in the back, you know, that was worth it for me at the time. Looking back now, it was madness, you know, but at the time I was in that, and it was creating this person that I wasn't. But I did take steroids at the time, but I always knew, I knew deep down that this wasn't right. I knew mentally, you know, it wasn't right. I just, for me inside, like, you know, I can relate to the people suffering depression, mental health problems, going through difficult times, sitting in my gym at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody knew I was there. Sure, I wasn't right, you know, mentally I wasn't right. You know, I was gone a bit mad, really, like, you know, it was car crash stuff.
Let's beef this up a little bit. Yeah, hop in the back. Yay!
I just wanted to focus on other things, and driving home from the Late Show that night in 2013, I knew going home that that's it. This no longer am I, you know, this is me done. I just knew it wasn't going to end well. You know, I knew I wanted the old James back. It nearly ruined my life, but I was mentally strong enough to come through it. Some young lads would come to you looking for advice on steroids. My advice now is stay well clear. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, take this, take that, take the other thing. In 10 years' time, are these young lads going to be washed up? Some of them will end up in trouble, their kidneys, their livers, you know, but they don't care right now. They're going into the gym, they're taking selfies. Nobody cares, you know. They're looking good on a Saturday night in a shirt. It's madness what's going on.
Possession of steroids for personal use is not illegal. However, the sale and supply of steroids is. Last year, 6 people were prosecuted in relation to steroids by the regulator, the Health Products Regulatory Authority, or HPRA. However, no one has ever been jailed for steroid dealing arising from a prosecution by the HPRA. So is it time for a change in the law?
We are preparing proposals for consideration, whether there should be tougher legislation around fines and custodial sentences for what is effectively dealing.
But the market for steroids is certainly growing.
I think it's blown up in the last 5 years. It's gone from just being a kind of a sport and kind of strength, kind of performance-enhancing drugs, but now it's just gone on to anyone can just go on and get a packet of D-balls, packet of Winstrol or whatever, and start taking them and going to the gym and getting big, and throw up a few Instagram photos. I think that's the generation we're at now.
It's so easy to get from the bottom to the top. It is there. And if you've been around steroids, you'll be able to spot who's done it or who's on it.
You can walk into any gym, look at the biggest fella there and ask him. He might tell you, go to the next biggest fella, and he probably will tell you. It's such a common thing that I think people think it's a very niche market when it's not. It's a big market.
In a recent survey, 1 in 10 adults in Ireland said they would consider taking anabolic steroids. That figure rises among young people. 1 in 5 people aged 18 to 34 said they would consider taking steroids. It's not known how many people are actually taking them, but if seizure rates are anything to go by, consumption levels are soaring. In the last 3 years, the volume of steroids seized by the authorities has increased tenfold to 450,000 units last year.
So if we look internationally, the general accepted estimate is that about 5% of steroids in circulation are seized by the authorities. They don't see the rest. So that brings our seizures to a circulation pool of about 10 million. And this is an epidemic of steroid use among our young men.
But we've also discovered that for some steroid users, there's a source closer to home. As part of our investigation, we had an undercover researcher book sessions with personal trainers who we believed were selling steroids. This video was recommended to our researcher by one of these personal trainers. It's an instructional video on how to take steroids. And during a personal training session, he recommended a particular steroid to our undercover researcher. A meeting was later arranged, and we met him here. From the boot of his car, he produced a small white bag. Inside the bag were these: syringes and testosterone, enough for a 6-week course of the drug. We then paid him cash. Our undercover researcher asked if there were any side effects, and the personal trainer said,
The only side effect you probably get is when you get hornier. No, everything's in there. You can get alcohol swabs if you want. Makes no odds, so once your skin is dirty.
We had this product tested, and the analysis confirmed it was an anabolic steroid. But tests also revealed other ingredients which were not listed on the packaging.
I also showed the presence of a plant sterol there, which is cetosterol. I showed some fatty acids present, and I also showed some pure testosterone. Now, any injectable is supposed to just contain what it says on the tin, so it shouldn't have been there. If they're not a registered product, of course, they shouldn't be sold in Ireland and people shouldn't be taking them. It's a worry. They may get it in the gym or they may get it online, and really, it's not a good idea.
This is Agris Bramsmiths, a second personal trainer about whom we had suspicions. He's based in Dublin and also runs an online supplement store. At the time we met him, he was working in Fit for Less in Finglas, which is part of an international franchise. And he was listed as a part-time personal trainer on their Finglas website. Last year, he was convicted on 9 counts of selling steroids. That case emerged from a complaint by the mother of an 18-year-old youth who had bought steroids from Agris Bramsmiths. But we wondered, had Agris really turned over a new leaf since his conviction? And all became clear within 20 minutes of meeting him for a personal training session when he offered to sell us steroids. We later met him here for a cash handover. Ironically, Agris was in court only that morning over not paying his fine for steroid stealing.
Oh yeah, just fucking from the court to the fucking boss. I need to fucking pay £8 fee.
And in light of the court case, he had to be careful.
Need to be very careful about this, you see. Yeah, 150.
Our undercover researcher then handed over the cash.
It's testosterone mix. I take 2 meals a week. And I get 2 signings and needles as well. Good. I'll have it for you tomorrow.
When we met him again, Agris was still annoyed about the court fine.
Fucking everywhere it moves. They fucking pull it back to next year to this January. Fucking ass.
Well, clearly in that situation, the £8,000 fine hasn't changed how he looks at life in the slightest. So he hasn't paid it, and he's still walking around selling the stuff. If somebody is caught selling steroids and they're fined, it's a cost of business. It's an occupational hazard. It's like paying rent on your shop. It's a cost, and you factor that into the business.
Our researcher asked about side effects.
Yeah, you fucking called me.
But there was a downside once you stopped taking these steroids.
It's just because of the come. It's just when you're using test, your body stop a normal procedure. So that's why you need a PCT to get your body to work back.
However, he was not offering to provide a PCT or post-cycle therapy, the mixture of drugs used to help counter some of the side effects. But he promised that his product would deliver significant muscle gain.
Good food, good training. As the first time, you can counter on 15, 20 kg. That's 3 susts. Lots of guys.
The chemical he was selling was a chemical called sustanon. It's a testosterone mix. I was speaking to somebody who was coming off steroids, who had told me about previously buying this chemical in an underground lab where somebody was making it in their kitchen. You don't know what you're buying.
Put air in, food out.
We wrote to Agris Bremsmiths about this transaction with our undercover researcher. He declined to comment. In a statement, Fit for Less in Finglas said they were unaware of Mr. Bremsmith's conviction and have launched an investigation into the matter. They also said illegal substances have no place in their business, and in future they would probably consider vetting every prospective employee through An Garda Síochána. Darren Fogarty is a personal trainer and director of a company which promotes athletes. Fogarty also works as door security and has a long-standing interest in diet plans and nutrition supplements.
You create that diet for 14 days and I guarantee 10 pounds will off you.
He was formerly associated with a shop called Big Shots Nutrition in Portlaoise. Earlier this year, Fogarty and Big Shots Nutrition were named in the inquiry report by the state body Sporting Ireland into the case of boxer Michael O'Reilly.
The Olympic boxing competitions are well underway in Rio. Tonight, finally, Michael O'Reilly accepts he won't be there. The boxer admits that he unintentionally took a supplement that may have contained a prohibited substance.
That substance was an anabolic steroid called metandionone, and O'Reilly was banned from boxing for 4 years. The official inquiry by Sporting Ireland reported that the supplement was sourced from Darren Fogarty in Big Shots Nutrition in May of 2016. However, we've established that Fogarty was the subject of a separate inquiry that same month by the regulator, the HPRA. And during this search, the HPRA also found the steroid metandionone. But this time, the steroid was not in a supplement, but packaged under its well-known brand name, Dianabol. In addition, the HPRA found human growth hormones and the steroids Trenbolone and Winstrol. Fogarty admitted to having these drugs for sale, and charges in relation to them were taken into account when he appeared in court back in September. He was convicted on 1 count in relation to a mail-order service for a skin tanning product, Melanotan. However, our research indicated that 2 years after the raid on the shop in Portlaoise, this personal trainer continued to have an involvement with the illegal sale of anabolic steroids. While he was no longer involved with the shop, he was still selling supplements online. And this is where we began our investigation into Darren Fogarty. We initially met Fogarty in response to an ad he posted for this product, a fat burner called D30 Plus.
Start off just take one a day.
There you go.
No, you're grand, listen. Last week, yeah, no, it's grand.
A week later, we made contact again with Fogarty. This time we asked him what products he might have for muscle gain.
How are you?
He was initially suspicious about our online identity, which was created for this investigation.
Not really. I mean, I befriend a lot of people on Facebook, to be honest with you.
Fogarty was still wary. He now wanted to make further inquiries.
Blanche, Roselawn.
Right, so that medical someone that know you like.
I wouldn't want you to be bringing any big neighbours, to be honest with you. Anyway, can you sort me out or not?
And finally, Darren Fogarty dropped his guard.
Yeah, I can. Injections will happen.
Tabs, please.
Fogarty then proceeded to offer 2 types of illegal anabolic steroids.
Grand. How much would that be all told?
200 altogether.
Sound.
However, for a first purchase, this will be a staged transaction.
The thing is that you're going to have to drop the money to me. I can't tell you where to go or what to do, and then meet me then tomorrow. Yeah, 100% so, yeah?
Okay, cool.
Later, we met Darren Fogarty for a cash handover for the steroids at this location, where he works as door security. He then apologised for having to quiz me earlier, but he explained it was all part of the territory.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, sorry about that, because I don't know who the fuck you are or anything like that. No worries.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Fogarty later supplied us with these, the steroids Anavar and Winstrol.
Nice one. That's a double bottle Latin. That's the Winstrol.
Winstrol is one of the illegal anabolic steroids which he was charged with having for sale back in May of 2016. And he now had it for sale again.
3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. When Anavar for the first, that'll get you for 6 weeks, then when the Winstrol, then directly after.
Right.
The Anavar will build the muscle, it'll increase your metabolism, it'll also increase strength. Oh, thanks.
Good, how are you? 2 weeks later, we arranged to meet Darren Fogarty once more.
The Anavar now are 50 milligrams, so you need to do 1 a fucking day.
This time he sold us the steroid known by its brand name, Dianabol, or D-Bol.
So he's doing 5 a day for 6 weeks.
Yes. Dianabol contains the performance-enhancing steroid metandionone.
He drinks the D-Bol because it's a little bit toxic.
Yes.
Tell him so hard, take a bit of vitamin C then as well.
This is the same steroid which the Irish boxer Michael O'Reilly was said to have sourced in the form of a supplement from Darren Fogarty back in May of 2016, which ultimately led to his ban from the Rio Olympics.
Again, very worrying to see supply of illegal prescription products in that way, despite a prosecution to where he actually pleaded guilty in court.
What was being sold in this video was Anavar, D-Bol, Winstrol. They're all oral steroids. There's 2 different methods of taking steroids. There is taking them orally as tablets or injecting them. Oral tablets are exceptionally toxic to your liver because they have to pass through your liver after your gut to then get into your bloodstream to get to your muscles. They're dangerous drugs that can cause liver failure, which can be irreversible.
What's up, man? How's it going?
In part 3, the illegal sale of anabolic steroids in health food shops and the easy money to be made.
You're just the middleman, is it? Yeah. Okay. And then I'll be the one delivering hand to hand.
As we showed earlier, steroids can be sourced from a variety of online shops and social media sites. But we've also uncovered a further layer to the black market, which is hidden in plain sight. And it's under the management and control of seemingly legitimate retailers. The Vitamin Shop is a leading franchise with 120 stores worldwide, 9 of which are in Ireland, each with separate owners. It claims to have the biggest chain of shops offering low-fat products across Europe. We had information the shop here on Ainger Street in Dublin was selling more than just nutrition products. This particular shop is owned and run by this man, Marcin Bakranovsky. Our researcher called into the shop and approached Bakranovsky for advice about gaining muscle. The store owner suggested a product called RipMax, which appeared to be a legitimate supplement. However, Bakranovsky told us this product was deliberately mislabeled. While the label on the outside listed innocuous ingredients such as fruit extract, there was an entirely different product inside. The store owner insisted that the product in question was a strong illegal anabolic steroid called Superdrol.
Czysty Superdrol. To jest Superdrol.
Speaking in Polish, Bakranowski said,
I told you this is something stronger, right? You got here pure Superdrol. It's absolutely not what you see here. This is Superdrol and this is strong. So when you open, this is precisely Superdrol inside. They had to do it this way, like we are changing labels, changing the container. But please, I'm asking you, don't say it. I give it to you in confidence.
We told the authorities, and tests confirmed that these supplements contained Superdrol.
This would be a very potent steroid. This will thicken your blood and will increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. These are dangerous things to be selling over the counter.
During our visit to the vitamin shop, Bakranowski told us his suppliers had a lot more Superdrol.
They had and still have a heap of product. They just had to put it in a different container.
The difference now that you're exposing is the availability. It was hard to get these drugs before. It now seems to be available. You can buy them in the high street. The price line seems to be at an affordable level, whereas before they were at an unaffordable level.
He later proceeded to reference some alarming health risks.
Surely you're a healthy person. You don't have any problems with your kidneys, liver, anything with the heart or anything like that. Well, because the worst of it is that if you were ill.
Because this is coming out of a high street shop, it probably implies to people that it is somehow safer because it's packaged. And I think the risk of this coming out of a main street shop is that potentially users are less on their guard.
We wrote to Marcin Bakranowski and informed him about what we uncovered. He declined to comment. The vitamin shop also has a franchise in Blanchardstown. This shop is owned and run by a personal trainer and bodybuilder called Tomasz Walczak.
Witam wszystkich. Nazywam się Tomasz Walczak.
He's a popular social media figure and sells everything from sportswear to a wide range of nutrition products. However, on a first visit to the shop, we soon discovered this was more than just a supplement store. Within a matter of minutes, Walczak provided this price list for our undercover researcher. It included testosterone cypionate and deca-durabolin, enough for a 6-week course of steroids to help develop lean muscle mass. Later, we returned to the shop, and it quickly became apparent where Walczak hides his illicit product. He reached behind a curtain and produced a plastic bag.
Okay.
And he then explained what was inside. He counts out the products: the steroids testosterone cypionate and deca, plus needles and syringes. A customer walks in at one point, but Walczak seems unconcerned. He then continues counting out the steroids. And our undercover researcher then handed over the money. We inquired about a further deal, and he told us we could contact him on Facebook. He then explained that he would be away for 2 weeks, and that this man, sitting behind the desk, Eddie Colgan, would handle orders in his absence. Eddie Colgan is a taxi driver, originally from Dublin city centre. We met him for a second steroids deal. Colgan throws the steroids into the back seat of our car, concealed in a plastic bag.
Everything's in there, buddy, yeah. It's, what's in there? The cypionate and... Yeah, go on, have a quick peek, dude. Yeah, absolutely. There's a deca and that's Novadex, that's the Moxfin. That's the deca, then you have the cypionate then as well.
We then paid him the cash.
That's absolutely perfect.
He then explained their cautious approach to what he described as their business.
And we'd even be very careful about who we're dealing with. Because look, at the end of the day, you have to keep the circle a little bit small because you know yourself, you know, we don't want too many people knowing our business, you know. We try and keep it quiet, you know.
In order to gain a further insight into this steroid supply ring, we decided to secretly record their operation over a number of days. And this is what we observed. During our filming, we noticed frequent visits to the shop by Eddie Colgan, and business was never far from their conversation.
Is that right? Should I text Paul about money? Paul?
He then mentions 2 products taken by steroid users which are illegal to sell without a prescription.
He asked me for HCG and Clomid.
And what he said?
He says, any chance you can get HCG and Clomid and leave them in with Tom for me, you know? I says, yeah, I'll leave them in with Tom tomorrow for you, buddy, no problem. So that's what...
Later, a well-known social media fitness blogger enters the shop. This man claims to be a natural athlete on his social media account, where he has thousands of followers. However, it soon emerges that his ripped physique is chemically induced. This is a reference to clenbuterol, a banned performance-enhancing drug.
Clenbuterol is, in my eyes, one of the most dangerous drugs that people take for its effect on your heart. These beta agonists affect the adrenaline cells in your heart and could actually potentially give you an arrhythmia that could be fatal if you have an underlying issue with your heart. It's it's mad. It's mad. The doctors would almost never, it's not prescribed anymore.
100? Yeah, the same thing we're getting. That's 30, isn't it? 40. 40? It was 30 last time.
There you go. But you bring cash.
Yeah. I don't have my friend.
You don't do the Persian rugs on the card.
Absolutely, I know that.
This is street slang for drugs, in this case, steroids.
How's your training going?
When the man leaves, it emerges that it's Eddie Colgan who sources the clenbuterol, and for half the price, they charge the customer.
Bring in the new Clenley.
How much you pay for it?
Same.
How much?
20 quid a fucking 100. I swear, I'm gonna boost his balls to get it cheaper, but it's because they're 0.2s.
Was there trading?
The sale of steroids, or the supply of steroids, so openly from a shop selling supplements is pretty brazen. The costs of these are actually surprisingly low. So the price tells you something about their quality.
The next day, we observe a stock take on steroid orders for different clients.
What do you want to throw into this envelope, did you say? Huh? What do you want to throw into this envelope? 20 enantates, 20 decas.
This is a reference to the steroids testosterone enantate and deca-durabolin. Tomasz Walczak now counts the cash profits. He then divvies out the profits due to his associate Eddie Colgan, who's not a listed director of the vitamin shop. Walczak then comments about how easy it all is.
Absolutely agree, it is easy money. The turnover that you were able to see in a very short period of time is very impressive. So here we have what you've shown very clearly is a huge growth industry, and we just don't have adequate enforcement.
We wrote to Tomasz Walczak and Eddie Colgan and informed them about what we uncovered. They declined to comment. In a statement, the owners of the Vitamin Shop franchise network said they were unaware of the sale of illegal substances. They said that if transactions of this kind were carried out by any of their franchisees, it was reprehensible and unacceptable. As we've seen in this programme, the steroids business in Ireland operates on many levels, with deals happening across social media, outside gyms, in car parks, and even in health shops. And demand for these drugs is certainly growing, with ever-increasing numbers of image-conscious young men and women prepared to risk causing long-term damage to their health in pursuit of short-term gain by getting what they think is the perfect body. But is there anything we can really do to stop them?
So it's completely clear from this that we just don't have adequate enforcement. What we're doing at the moment is worse than not enforcing at all, because it's bringing the whole process of the law into disrepute in this area.
People are going to take it anyway, like you're not going to be able to fight that fact. Like, there should be an outlet of information, right? If you're going to take it, this is what you should do at least. This is how you should do it if you are going to take it.
We're facing into a steroid epidemic. What is so important is that young people are educated about steroids. There is no point telling young people that steroids won't make you stronger, because if you say that, they're not going to believe anything else you say. Yes, steroids will make you stronger and then improve your endurance, but there's an increased risk of stroke, an increased risk of heart attack, increased risk of sudden death, prostate cancer, significant cost.
But the only real way it's going to change is if people realize that this is a poor practice, this is a poor health choice, this is a poor life choice.
I don't think we take it seriously enough as a society. This is an epidemic. It has major health implications. People are dying as a result of it.
If he had heard this story about himself, he would have never took them, but he'd never heard anything. I just wish he never ever took steroids, ever.